I was born and bred in Guildford and grew up in Guildford as well. In the schools, I was in George Abbott school in sixth form doing my A-levels before I shot off to Loughborough. I started canoeing when I was around 9-10 on a holiday fun scheme run by Guildford Council, which involved getting kids active in the summer holidays, involved in all these different activities and sports, and Way Kayak Club opened their doors to this activity scheme, and it started very basically with me just having a laugh with my friends, and then as we got better at paddling, you then move into competitions, marathon competitions, and obviously sprint competitions up in Nottingham, and then you kind of improve on what you are more happy doing or what you enjoy most. And for me it was sprint, and as I got quicker progressively over the years, obviously the GB canoeing offered me a place on the junior team.
I just started canoeing when I was about 10. I started paddling with the Cub Scouts in a swimming pool in my hometown, which is Clitheroe in Lancashire, and just playing around in boats to start with. And then actually at the time there was a Cub Scouts and Scouts racing series in the Northwest, which is kind of basically loose sort of marathon type racing. They had divisions depending on our ability. I started doing that with a few friends. When I was training for that, there happened to be some guys in the area who raced whitewater kayaking. They came along to the same place we were training and offered, to give the opportunity to anyone that was keen to go and try whitewater. So we went off there pretty much the weekend after this had happened, and I had my first go in a whitewater boat. We went off this weekend and did a race at Ironbridge. Absolutely loved it, and probably from then on for the next 5 or 6 years, most weekends my dad was driving me to a race or to training. Started to achieve some success for myself in the sport, which has actually continued in whitewater since I've stopped competing in it. And then won a number of other titles at senior level in whitewater racing. I was European champion, World Cup champion. Did almost everything I wanted to do in whitewater except for win a World Championships, which is something I'll return to maybe in a few years. So I got to that stage and then started to look at other challenges, and the first one that came up was was Beijing. I thought I'd have a go, see if I could start sprinting and maybe make a challenge to go and race there. I narrowly missed out with my K2 partner at the time, who was Ben Brown, who's since gone on to be a world marathon champion. We were 0.6 of a second off the first round qualification for Beijing, and then a similar margin at the second round qualification, just 1 or 2 places out, which is quite hard to take, but it's been a good learning lesson, because when it came around for Olympic qualification this time, I didn't want that to happen, perhaps more than anyone else in the start line.
I've always been a very fast twitch, explosive athlete, and I've always favoured the shorter distances. So obviously went to Junior Europeans K2 500 with Edward Cox, and then when I dropped out, I started to train again, but that was only aiming for the 500 metres, obviously the shorter Olympic distance. So when the 200 metres was announced as an Olympic event, it was pretty much a barn door opened in front of me and an opportunity to take, because I preferred the 200 metres over the 500, and we went from there.
There's definitely a reason why transferring, particularly from the sprint discipline of whitewater to 200 metre racing makes sense, because whitewater you've got to be extremely explosive, and that's where my strength lay, was in short, sharp accelerations that you need to get down a rough piece of water fast. When we started out on the cycle of training for 200 metres, since it was made an Olympic event, we had a look at what crew boats we could make, which people worked best in the crew boats, and that was quite immediately evident that I was good in quite a lot of crew boat scenarios, and the crew boat of me and Liam worked especially well. So that was kind of why, when we were going to make a crew boat, it was us. And then since then it's been proven successful. So we stayed with it, and if you stay with a crew boat when it's good, because having 2 people that work well together is pretty much gold dust. it's not a given that two extremely fast paddlers will make a good crew boat. So when you do have that, it's worth banking and working on improving that.
With the 200 metre squad, we did this process called seat racing, where you try all different combinations of all the different people to find the best combination, which is completely fair and unbiased. And I mean, you've got to be open, because as I've mentioned, that they could be the fastest K1s. If they put them in the same boat, they might not fit together and will go slower than another two people who aren't as fast in their K1s. But all the times we did out in Seville showed that we were a pretty compatible match, and it went from there, really. I sit in the front of the boat and I control the race, and I can steer the boat left or right, and then, yeah, as I said, I control the pace of the race and the start. Johnny's behind, and he has to match my stroke rate and stroke as perfectly as he can to make sure the power in each stroke is precise, so he can get our fastest times. But we obviously work at these things so much that you don't really pay much attention. It's just something that it becomes second nature.
I'm following him. I have to wait until I see his paddle move. You know, I can't anticipate the start myself. You have to go at the same time as him, or you'll just be out kilter and you won't get back together until it's too late. So I have to wait for him off the start, but then there is an element of the fact that we've raced together so many times and trained these starts that I'm copying him, keeping in time, but we've done it so many times it happens naturally. So that's what you kind of want, is that I'm just paddling, not consciously thinking about it too much, and then you move off the line smoothly. And then after that, when I get up to this really high stroke rate, very consciously sort of mimicking his body movement and making sure that our timing isn't just our hands and paddles that are visible, it's the leg movement as well, which means he's comfortable to work as hard as he can, and I'm paddling like I'd like to as well. It's a huge thing. If you both feel comfortable, you're both going to work as hard as you can. If someone's not comfortable in the boat, they're not going to put down their utmost power. So my job really is to almost make Liam feel like there's no one on the back, but the boat's moving faster than it would if I wasn't there.
I think because me and Johnny are very similar people physically and very determined as well, I bring pretty much exactly the same. I think that's what the winning combination is, because we're so explosive and the techniques work together so well. With the crew boat, that's absolute gold dust, and that's why the boat runs so well. I bring the same as Johnny does, which doubles the speed. Yeah, no, he's an easy guy to get on with. He's very passionate about what he does. He loves his coffee and his cooking as well. We're quite similar. He loves to take his car and restore his Volkswagen Golf. He's very focused on what he wants to achieve as well. He's a great athlete and very explosive. So yeah, no, he's a great friend. I don't think you could ask for a better friend.
Yeah, he's pretty good to work with. You couldn't find a more easygoing, hard-working guy. And then in terms of racing together, he's, aside from being an incredibly fast K1 paddler, he's super consistent in the front of a K2. I mean, unbelievably consistent, which makes my job, as we were talking earlier about my job of copying him and doing what he does, so much easier, because he always does the same thing. I know exactly what he's going to do when we leave the start line. So it's been a joy working with him. And like I say, he's a quiet guy.
I've come across quite quiet, but I'm not if I know you.
Both got particular interesting cars as well. He's always wanted a an old Beetle and bought one last year. So it's been quite interesting watching what he's been doing with that. And it's a never-ending hobby. You always fancy changing something or tinkering away, so it's good in that way, as it always gives us something to do.
We're both laid back, quite chilled, can handle our nerves really well, which is important. And we can easily switch off and distract ourselves with either taking our cars apart or building something else, or doing some photography or some artwork on a computer. So we're we're in and out of each other's pockets quite a lot, so it's good that we get on so well. I wasn't a very sporty kid in school. I kept sports as an activity outside of school. I did take part in fencing, and it was a bit of a decision whether I wanted to do paddling or fencing, because I couldn't do both. And I went with canoeing because I enjoyed it more than I did fencing.
I think there's a number of things that really, drew me to it and made me good. And they're sort of, I like being outdoors. I liked paddling on rivers, and particularly, there's nothing better than paddling down miles and miles of a whitewater river. Just being there. But then I was also very sporty as a kid. I was quite good at running. I enjoyed competing, so maybe it combined those two elements. And the third thing is, canoeing's a really welcoming sport. Started it, and immediately people want to help you and really good at embracing you, and you're almost like you're joining a family when you start racing, and that keeps you around.